You're listening to Deliberate Living, a podcast that inspires, empowers, and encourages listeners to live life more authentically. My name is Holly Priestley, and I'm a full-time nomad and writer who has been living in my 1997 Ford van since January 1st of 2019. I travel the United States with my dog, learning how to live with more authenticity. I explore different ways people choose to ditch the prescribed life we've all been sold and live on their terms, finding freedom and happiness however they choose. Hey guys, before we get too far into this episode, I just want to let you know a little trigger warning before we get started. We do talk a little bit about disordered eating in this episode. So if that's not something you want to listen to, please skip it and tune back in next week. Thank you. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Deliberate Living Podcast. I am your host, Holly Priestley, and this is my guest, Ashley Church.
Oh, hey.
She is currently living out of a RPod trailer towed behind a Tacoma with her 9 or 10 month old, beautiful, noisy, rambunctious husky named Shasta. And we met a few weeks ago at a nearby campground where she is volunteering to be a campground host. And we've gotten to spend a lot of time together the last few weeks. So I thought she'd be a great addition to the show because her story is unique and alternative and deliberate. And say hello to the people.
Oh, hello. Thank you so much, Miss Holly, for being here today. I'm so glad that I met you. Seriously, this has been such a dream in wanting community on the road. So thank you.
Yeah, let's definitely talk about that more because that's a question that I get. But for the people who don't know who you are, who aren't following you on Instagram yet or haven't met you in person, why don't you give a little bit of your backstory about what you were doing before you moved onto the road and what made you make that leap, that transition?
Great question. Well, I think like many stories, they all start with the dark night of the soul. I had been living like this pretty nomadically for about the past 10 years, and I was in southern Utah living my dream life at a retreat center, but I was extremely sick, and I was completely running away from the fact that I had a severe eating disorder for about 11 years that was literally killing me. So for the past...
That's pretty significant.
Yeah, so I had kind of my wake-up call from 23 to 25. I kept getting arrested. I got kicked out of university.
These are things I did not know before now, so I'm pretty excited.
I was trouble. Like, my motorcycle got stolen. I just kept having these things from the universe be like, yo, wake. Can I curse on here? But
yeah, absolutely. This is for adults.
Wake the fuck up, basically. To the point where I literally lost everything. I had no community. I had no friends. I was hospitalized. It was really, really intense. So at 25, I had this deep moment that my soul was like, Ashley, go to Northern California. Like, get in your car, drive the straight 15 hours, go to this cabin that your grandfather built, and just go there and heal. I had no idea why, but I listened to that voice. I drove through the night, didn't tell anyone, packed up all my shit in Northern California.
Yeah.
I went to this little cabin in the woods, and while I was there, or right when I got there, I had this moment. I'll never get this. I was wearing this white dress, and I just, walked into the Yuba River and was just like, I need help. Nothing in my life is working. I need serious help. I didn't believe in God at that point. I was just a total dysfunctional, very sick, lost puppy. And the trail provided, and it guided me to the right people. The irony is I went to go get colonics in Sacramento because I wanted to lose more weight. And the woman ended up being a eating disorder recovery coach, and I didn't know this. And so I ended up working with her every week for a year. And I was at a trim camp in Northern California, and a lovely, lovely lady also called my ass out to be like, I think you have a severe eating disorder. With the combination of those two things, I spent my first year, I lived alone at this cabin in the woods in Northern California. I didn't work. That's literally all I did. I taught... Was heal. That's all I did. Just did. I worked with her every single week for 3 years. I worked with a therapist every week for 3 years. I just went on this crazy healing journey from dysfunctional to becoming this just slowly stepping more and more into my goddess power. Yeah. So really, I feel like that part is really, really important because I wouldn't be where I am here today, and I wouldn't be living this lifestyle if I hadn't had that moment of like the dark night of the soul to wake my ass up.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, by me going on that healing journey and me dedicating myself to being vulnerable, to stepping into my power, like, I'm now able to call in my dream clients. I'm now able to be a professional artist. I'm able to be a speaker, which that thing did go through at Mirasol.
It did?
Which is awesome.
Yay!
So I'm able to do these things that I love because I took the time and the energy to heal. And for me, that's really my main purpose, and my main message is to inspire people to very like comfortably, but also not push them out of the nest, to be like, hey, like, by you healing your shit, your addiction, your whatever it is, whatever your vices is, like, you're able to then ultimately step into your power and live your dream life and do the things that you actually are here for, instead of like playing safe and playing small. So that's kind of the story.
During your like healing process, I know for me, I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm going to ask you if you have this experience as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm going through a healing process, it fucking hurts. It does not feel good at all. And so as a result, part of me is like, I don't want to heal. I just want to stay small. I just want to live in this comfortable world that I have already built myself in. And I know it's not the best place for me. And I know I can do better as a person and as a life and as a piece of the universe. But I am just afraid of what comes after the pain, or if there is an after the pain, or am I just going to be in this amount of pain like forever? And so sometimes I like will talk myself out of healing for a short period, and then I'll get back to it.
Right.
But like sometimes it's like I really want to be on the other side, but I'm worried about what that's going to look like and how uncomfortable I'm going to be to get there. So like for you, has there ever been any kind of like fear of healing?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I feel like in a way I'm kind of going through, as I up-level and like up-level in my career, I'm definitely experiencing that.
Yeah.
But I think where most of my wounds were within dating, because I was so incredibly codependent when I was younger, and it was like, if my boyfriend backlined, I backlined. And like, I did that whole thing. So for me, I was really avoidant with dating because it had caused so much pain. And during that time, I deliberately was single. But this wasn't avoidant. Like, I was deliberately single for 2.5 years because like I needed to come home to myself. Like, I set a goal that I wasn't going to start dating people until I like wholeheartedly was staying in, to the best of my ability. Obviously, we all falter at times, to like stay in my path. So I think during that time, that was definitely, I was kind of resisting that until I started learning, and I'm learning again now, that the more we do things that are uncomfortable and like step into that, and you start to see growth or like little nuggets on the other side, or like even meeting you, like I feel like the more we are able to kind of gently push ourselves to kind of move beyond that, the more these like amazing golden nuggets come into our lives, and it helps give us like the reassurance and the confidence to keep going. To like not get stuck and crawl in a hole and die. So
I think that's fair. And like you said, sometimes it is kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, but I feel like usually the universe comes in right then, and they're like, no, you're doing good. Here's a golden nugget. Totally. Please keep going. Totally. Please continue. Please keep it up. Totally. And as far as like dating goes, I mean, I'm in a great relationship now, but I was also like deliberately single for a few years before we got together, because I was also pretty codependent, and whatever my boyfriend did, I did. Yeah. And I was like over compromising, like whatever they wanted would be what we both wanted, or something like that. And I really like lost myself. And like, I tell you what, once you find a partner after this period of like deliberate aloneness and deliberate healing, you will have so many like wonderful times with that person, but you will also second guess yourself so much, because you'll be like, am I still being codependent? Is this okay? Or like when you stand up for yourself or your needs, or you like advocate for yourself,
you'll be like, wait, was that too much? Should I have done less? Mm-hmm. How do you have a healthy relationship?
Yeah, overthinkers.
Yeah, it's great. It's so great.
Yeah.
But worth it
Totally.
when you find the right person. And, you know, sometimes people are just the right people for a short period of time, and they're not necessarily the right people forever. Mm-hmm. And that's okay, too. Mm-hmm. So, what part has living in your camper played in this, like, self-healing? I mean, I know you didn't do it, like, from the get-go because you needed that, like, solitude and that stationariness and that, like, structure for healing. And now you've kind of, you know, we move with the wind and we do whatever we kind of feel like doing. And how has that been a good, like, transitory piece for you?
Something that really stuck with me, and obviously everyone has a different story that my mentor shared with me a lot, was before you leave the nest, like, really having a sense of groundedness. And, like, for me, that took 4 years in Northern California, which there's no time frame on anything, to really, like, come home to myself and have this, and I keep saying this sentence, but really, like, coming home to myself and, like, really acquiring this sense of power. So for me, when I was at the cabin, I remember seeing a little trailer like this and being like, I'm going to do that. I want that. Yeah. And I kind of had that manifestation, that goal in my mind the whole time coming home to, because my parents were really, really nomadic, and I've traveled all over through them. So, like, this lifestyle wasn't new to me. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Very grateful for that experience. So for me, I just got really clear when I started making the list, big fan of lists, with calling things in that I was looking for. I knew I wanted to, first kind of get to a grounded space, but then from there, I wanted to find a way that I could work online and that I could travel for my job and I could still keep being creative. Yeah. So this ultimately is kind of like part 2 of the story. Like, part 2 of the one was like coming home to self. Part 2 of the story is like, obviously we're always healing and growing. Like, none of that shit ever goes away. I mean, it definitely improves, but like, we're always evolving.
I mean, yeah, the new steps are like, just, you're never, it's like a consistent, like, false peak. Like, I did it. Oh no, there's more mountain. Oh,
totally.
Oh no, there's more mountain.
Totally.
And there's just always going to be
more
mountains.
Right.
Rest is important. Yeah. You should enjoy the false peaks when you get there.
Totally.
But I think that story is, like, really consistent, where people are like, all right, I did this, now I want something different. And a lot of people I know have to make a list of the things that will make this life, like, logistically viable for them as well as emotionally. And a lot of that does come down to defining your work and defining, like finances, like how much it actually costs to, like, live this kind of lifestyle, or what you need, right? Because one thing that we've heard on the show over and over again is that it costs different things for different people. Some people can live off of only a few $100s a month. Some people need a few thousand. Yeah. It really just depends on the person individually. Yeah. And there's no right or wrong answer. Just like there's no, like, timeline for healing. Like, your numbers will vary. Your mileage will vary. Mm-hmm. So how did you kind of narrow down, like, your needs from your wants? Like, you need XYZ things to get on the road. And it might be nice if you also had these things, but you don't absolutely require them.
Needs versus wants, like, specifically in terms of my trailer and, like, or finances?
Just the lifestyle in general. As a whole. All of it. Because you can't have, like, your trailer without finances.
Totally.
Right? So it all kind of plays together.
Right. I'm still trying to unpack that. So I feel like I needed a space. I really wanted a shower. So for me, I got really lucky in that I had a certain amount saved that I had put aside, and when it was time to jump, I was like, well, I'm going to get the trailer, I'm going to do that. And then I had a Jeep prior. Love my Jeep so much, but I had to get rid of it because I had to get a truck in order to pull the trailer, which having to go to Tacoma, fuck yeah, it's great. Big fan. I got a motorcycle in the back. It's a good combo. So for me, that was kind of step 1, was making those 2 purchases. And then in terms of how I actually made it viable, something that I always tell people, which kind of surprises them, is, well, first of all, I feel like it's important to understand finances.
A basic budget,
like basic and understanding of budgeting, and like really looking at your banks. I mean, I'm just a big fan of, like, becoming empowered as a female and understanding finances, but
completely
like
agree.
Looking at your bank statement and be like, hey, how? Oh shit, Mayday. looking at like how much you spend on food and gas and kind of getting like an overall sense of what you spend per month.
Yeah.
And then something, I just have always spent the same amount. So it's like whether I'm on the road or whether I'm at home, I'm literally spending the same amount of money.
That's really interesting.
So like, for example, I'm not paying rent this way. So now that money goes into my car payment. So it's like I'm able to just find ways to still spend the same amount, also still enjoy the things that I love. There's a book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. Sethi? Do you know? Yeah,
Ramit Sethi.
Ramit Sethi. Thank you.
Yep. I'll link to it in the show notes.
Yeah.
That's a great one. I've read it a few times.
Yeah.
It's a really good, like, basic, like, start from step one and move through. So if you haven't, tackled any personal finance or budgeting or anything like that, or you just, like, maybe have, like, the basics, but you want, like, the next level up, like, it's a really good, like, all-encompassing book, I think. And I agree that, like, being empowered financially as a female is really, really important for, like, your self-worth and your sense of, like, confidence and capability and all of that.
Totally. I mean, I want to be able to build my own home. Like, I want to be able to buy my own land and do these things. And obviously it would be amazing to do these things with a partner. But I feel like a lot of women, but my subconscious story I was fed was, like, I'm not capable to do these things on my own. And so for me, through healing, it's like, well, excuse me, actually.
Bitch, please. I can do this myself if I want to.
100%. So for me, that's definitely something that inspires me to try to understand finances, is I want to remove the paradigm shift that you can be a creative and still thrive financially doing the life that you love.
Yeah. So you're not falling for that whole, like, starving artist thing. No, you want to be an abundant artist.
Well, it's bullshit. I mean, honestly, like, I definitely am still moving through some of my own money blocks. I'm going to be transparent on that. But it comes down to, I mean, these things, like, this is nothing new to you, but it comes down to self-worth. And it really comes down to, like, pulling out those weeds of, like, oh, this isn't real. My dad told me this, or this. So I'm not trying to put this on family by any means, but a lot of it is, like,
so much of what we learn growing up, like, those paradigms that we're raised with are so much our family or whoever happens to raise us.
Totally.
Yeah. And so much of what they teach us is, like, subconscious. They don't necessarily, like, say, you as a woman cannot do this alone, but it's something that you witness. Like, I talked about this in an episode a few weeks ago with Christine for the Rugged Outdoors Woman, of the Rugged Outdoors Woman account. And we talked about, like, the things that our parents told us versus the things that they showed us were kind of disjointed. Like, you can grow up and be anything you want to be. You can do anything you want to do. You don't need no man. You are powerful. Right? Yeah. And then you start doing these things. Like, you start doing, like, all right, they said I could do anything I wanted to do and be anything I wanted to be. So now I'm going to go be XYZ thing that I want to be. And then they're like, whoa. Okay. So you can do anything you want to do and be anything you want to be as long as you fit in our parameters of our little box.
Right.
And then you're like, no, that's not what I want.
Totally.
So how do you make money on the road to afford your lifestyle?
Well, something that I learned from that book, and I've also learned, I'm a big fan, should be her spokesperson, to be magnetic, of Lacey Phillips. They really talk about always having, like, a savings when you are making this leap of, like, 6 months to a year in advance. So when I did step into this lifestyle, I had that comfort to where if I wasn't consistently getting income, I wasn't going to freak out. But myself, I originally started as a scientific illustrator working for different environmental nonprofits and
words are hard.
And indigenous tribes based out of Northern California. So that gave me a pretty good savings because I was able to contract them and I would do a couple projects for them and then they would really like me and they would just keep hiring me. Yeah. So a couple of these projects, I worked for both of those organizations for like 2 years each. So that was really amazing and helpful to kind of get me involved into my art career. Now with 2020 kind of being like, hey, like, let's really step out of our comfort zone. That was an amazing space to really start giving me the confidence to be like, wow, I can make money with my art. But that was more kind of in the commercial world versus now I'm really trying to step into the uncomfortable area of like the fine art world, which I avoided like the plague, because I was like, what do you mean I have to like make something and then hope it sells? Versus before I was like, I'm making something, it's contracted, it's
already sold.
It's already sold. I don't have like it just was, which I'm definitely still doing. But now I've really shifted into murals. That's been one of my main things that I do. I'm doing paintings, I'm doing performance poetry, and I just stepped into, because of this lovely lady's influence, I'm going to be doing coaching within relationships. So those are the main ways. And public speaking.
You also speak.
Yeah, so I'm a motivational speaker. No, I guess I am. I am a motivational speaker in terms of body image and healing eating disorders.
Nice.
So yeah, that's what I do.
I think that is really interesting, and like, you know, for those listening, watching, reading, who aren't necessarily like illustrators or painters, or, you know, don't consider themselves creatives, with all of the air quotes. And I only say that because I used to say, like, I'm not a creative. I've never believed myself to be a creative. And then my friend Ed corrected me and taught me that I am a creative. But so I'm owning it a little bit more now. But the point of that tangent was to point out that, you know, it doesn't necessarily matter what you think you can do or what you think you can't do. Having multiple streams of income is always a good idea.
Yes.
Believing in yourself, owning what you do is always a good idea. Mm-hmm. Accepting contracts from new people and then over-delivering is always a good idea. Mm-hmm. And these are all things that I've found to be successful in my own entrepreneurial endeavors as well. I mean, I'm fully self-employed and have been for years, but the way that I make money and which amounts come from which places is kind of constantly evolving. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it feels like failure, right? Mm-hmm. Especially being raised in the society that we were. It's like, I don't have a steady income. I don't have benefits. I don't have a salary. I'm sure as shit don't have a pension. Yeah. We won't even have Social Security. Yeah. So, like, having a basic understanding of money is really important. Mm-hmm. And then being, like, open-minded and evolving constantly with what you learn, and also what the universe can throw at you, like a global pandemic or smaller things, who knows? Right. I think is really important for especially making this lifestyle work, but really any lifestyle.
Totally.
What do you think are the biggest pros and cons of living on the road specifically?
Man, I feel like I'm honestly still trying to find the cons. Like, I mean, especially because I was wanting to do this for so long, and it allows me to, I mean, it just gives you so much flexibility, honestly. Yeah. I feel like, pros, there's so many pros. I don't even know where to start. Let me look at my little rig, and I'm like, what are the cons? I think power. Hey, right. I was going to say, because basically I'm only able to charge my phone because these people right now. Definitely getting a source of power is crucial. I'm learning that. I have a Goal Zero, but we're having some issues with it right now, so I've been borrowing their little.
She also doesn't have solar power, which is different.
Right. I have like the box of Goal Zero. I need to actually invest in the solar, and then I'll be Gucci. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's kind of a basic bitch to be the pros, but it's like, I get to go on hikes in all these different places. Yeah. I get to, like, meet new people, and I feel like the way that I go about it, and it seems like we're both going about it, is we're not going, like, zooming from spot to spot to spot. Like, we kind of are going somewhere. Like, I want to be somewhere for, like, a minimum of a month, personally. But, like, I've been in Tucson. It'll be a total of, like, 5 to 6 months. I'm going to go to Moab for like 3 to 4, and then Taos for probably the rest of the year. So it's like I'm spending consecutive times in each of these areas, so I'm able to create community in different spots, which to me is definitely a huge, huge pro, and something that I was kind of worried about, because I've really, from all those years prior in my early 20s when I sucked at relationships, it totally catapulted me into learning everything I possibly can about how to have awesome relationships, and I've really cultivated amazing friendships the past 4 years, and I didn't want to lose sight of that, and I wanted to still maintain that while I was on the road meeting new people. And
so I definitely want to talk more about community on the road, because this is a question that I've been getting a lot lately, and I think part of it is because of 2020 and people are having to reevaluate even sticks and bricks, people are having to reevaluate their relationships and their sense of community because we can't go out like into our communities in the same way. We can't engage with our communities, our friends, our family, etc. in the same way. Mm-hmm. But having lived on the road for a year prior to the pandemic, mm-hmm. like building community for me has constantly been something new and unique and different. And so I'm curious how you view community, how you make it on the road, and how you maintain the community that you had prior to being on the road.
That's a really good question. I think what was really helpful was the first locations that I went to in Bend and like the Pacific Northwest and up in White Salmon. I went there knowing people. So that was, I feel like, a really great introduction of like being in a place I wanted to be, knowing that I know someone there. And that was kind of what guided my destinations as I made my way down the Pacific Northwest, was like going to see different homies along the way. Yeah. So that was something that was to kind of like help me get that confidence. In terms of maintaining old relationships, I love them so much. And like, I mean, like even last night, like I'm constantly doing like FaceTime or sending them goofy videos or pictures or different things, because for me, like I've noticed, because my love language is quality time, pretty much all my friends back home, their love languages are quality time as well. So I really try to put in an effort to still have that quality time with the individuals, because I don't want to lose sight of that. And I really feel like something that I always say, thank you, Jessica Coles, is when I was living in Northern California, like every single week, a minimum of 2 days a week, like we would make dinner with each other, and we'd have like all day on Sunday to go on an adventure and like hang out.
Sounds great.
It was so good. It was like we had that level of consistency, and we did that for 4 years. And I really feel like because we had that, it's like a romantic relationship, same thing. Like, because we dedicated that level of consistency, like we just became so close. And she's been bopping and weaving all over, and so have I. So because we had that foundation, now I feel like it's much easier for me to keep in contact with my people, because my main people she moved back, but was in Hawaii, and then one in the on the coast in Northern California, and then one in like the forest in Northern California. There's kind of like all over. So it's really nice to have that foundation, so then I can like keep calling them and checking in.
Yeah. So as far as like making community on the road, it's going places where you maybe already know somebody, or you know the activities to do there, and then doing them, hanging out with those people, doing the activities, and being open to meeting other people on the way.
Totally.
And staying in a place longer than, a weekend or a week, and really like kind of sinking your teeth into a location. And again, being open to meeting people. I mean, the reason I met you wasn't because of me, because I am a shy person and an introverted person, and so like I wasn't gonna go say hi, but our friend Laura was like, "That girl looks cool and she's got a cute dog. Let's go talk to her." And I was like, "I'll stay here. Yeah, you can go talk to her, because she's a very open, extroverted, energetic kind of person." And then she kind of brought you into the fold, and then we became friends that way. So if you're an introvert, having friends who will like take you under their wing and advocate for your friendship is nice.
Totally. But I mean, I've also come from like, I feel like I vacillate. I feel like I'm becoming much more extroverted. But I still have that very much like introverted side. And I think part of it is like really surrendering. And I know that's like the word of all the woo-woos, but like really surrendering and trusting that like the right people are going to come into your life energetically. And just to be patient, especially when you are on the road or if you are traveling, because there was a time period where I was like, okay, it's not happening. Like, where are my people? Keep meeting the people that like, not that I wasn't interested, but like my people that I really wanted to like invest that energy and time into. So it does happen. It just takes a little bit of patience, and sometimes having extroverted friends who will also bring you on in there. But I'm so glad that happened. So
I think a combination of like patience and openness is pretty good. It's a pretty good start, regardless of your extroversion or introversion. What do you think future plans are for Ashley, Shasta, and the R-Pod? Next, like, 6 months, year, 5 years? How far in the future can you see?
Well, I'm really, really excited because I just got an opportunity that I have been calling in and I've been really, really patient for quite some time. I'm going to be performing poetry and being a motivational speaker at Mirasol Recovery Center here in Tucson, and that is something I am very, very excited about.
It's something you've been talking about, at least for the last few weeks that I've known you, so it's pretty
forever,
exciting.
Which I'm really looking forward to. I'm going to be attending an artist residency in Moab, Utah for 3 months over the spring, which I'm very
You got that too?
Yes.
That's
I'm
awesome.
Very stoked about just being able to paint those red rocks all the time.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty ideal.
That would be awesome.
I think I have clear goals career-wise in terms of the direction that I want to be going.
Yeah.
But I feel like where I'm having to be flexible is when I first, which we were discussing, like when I first, prior to stepping into this lifestyle, I was like, I'm going to go to all these places. I'm going to find my home. I'm going to get grounded.
Yeah.
And now that I'm doing this, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. Like I'm having so much fun. And ultimately, I do know that is my goal. Ultimately, I want to like do what my family did of kind of having 2 homes in different areas and bopping and weaving between the two. But I'm really, really enjoying this lifestyle. So I do really feel in my soul that I am going to end up in either Moab or Taos. But for the meantime, I've got like a year or something like that. So it's just staying on my path, or sometimes getting off, but for the most part, staying on my path and
be
seeing
open
where
to
that
your
takes
path
me.
changing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think myself and a number of vanners or road people that I've talked to have kind of had that mindset of, I'm going to travel for a while because I want to and because I can, but hopefully in my travels, like, I'll come across some space that feels like home, and then that's where I'll just like set down roots, either in the moment or after I'm done traveling. And I also haven't necessarily like found a place that's like, okay, this is where I could be for a while. Like I found a bunch of places where I'm like, oh, this is where I could be for this season. Of the year.
Right.
Like Tucson is great. Arizona is great, like right now. But I would not. Okay, it's not that nice.
Just kidding. It's great.
It's so big. There's so much land out here. Everyone could come. But I wouldn't want to be here in July. No, that would not work for me.
No.
But then, hanging out in Colorado or Montana or, other parts of the country in July would not work for me in January.
Right. 100%.
So I think that is perfectly normal, and I like the idea of having multiple places to pop between. And I think even when I am stationary, I'll still have the van, so I'll still be able to like be a weekend warrior if I wanted to.
Totally, 100%.
But what advice would you give to somebody who is maybe considering this kind of lifestyle, whether that be, transitioning your career to from something like more structured and reactive to something that is maybe more like proactive and self-guided, or if somebody wanted to move into a trailer? Do you have any advice for those?
I was waiting for this question.
And here's where the podcast really starts.
Okay, part 1, I'll be kind of what I was sharing, like heal, get a therapist, start your, like do the things that looks different for everyone, but like really stepping into that healing, like personal growth process. Step 1. Step 2, something that I feel is very important that I learned from both my mentor and Lacey Phillips' works is find people who are doing something similar to what it is that you want to be doing and get in contact with them or follow them or stalk them on Instagram. Just somehow or another where like you can physically see them and see what they're doing, because it's showing your subconscious that what you want is actually tangible.
Yeah. Because
a lot of us are fed that story of like, I can't do this or I can't do that. But if you physically see someone, like when I was like, how do I be an artist? Blah, 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 blah. And I made my list of all the things I want. And then people started coming into my life. Obviously, I'm going to do it differently, but showing somewhat similar in terms of what I was trying to project into my future, it allowed my subconscious to be like, oh, wow, that's actually like a tangible thing. And if they're doing it, why can't I do it? So that is something that has been extremely helpful for me. And I really want to give a big shout out, everyone to follow Wyatt Hersey, because he has been such a mentor for me for that process. I mean, his dad was a professional artist. He's become a professional artist, and he pretty much like took me under his wing when I was 23, I want to say, and just kind of showed me the ropes. And it was really, really amazing to form that bond with someone who wasn't in that starving artist mindset and who really like was thriving and knew what he was doing, to have someone that could just like ask all the questions. And now he's one of my best friends. We lived with each other for a few years. So really surrounding yourself around people so that's kind of tying into number 3, like surround yourself around people who you find inspiring.
Yeah. Like
surround yourself with people that are stepping out of their comfort zone and like really chasing after what it is that they want, because the more you feel empowered and they feel empowered and you're just like energetically just like bouncing ideas and stuff off of each other.
Yeah. It's a very
really
like 1 + 1 = 3 kind of situation.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
It really amplifies the energy of the space.
Totally.
And surrounding yourself doesn't necessarily mean like going to where they are physically, because right now we can't. But even when you can, like you don't have to be in the same space geographically as this person, because of the wonders of the internet and social media. Like social media is not necessarily a good thing, but it can be used for good. And I think that's one really good way. I mean, I use my social media very deliberately, and I only follow accounts that like feed me in some way.
Same.
Because I think that's important.
Same. And reaching out to them, because honestly, like, I have emailed so many professional artists. It's ridiculous. And I've gotten a response from all of them except for one. So
that's awesome.
That was really helpful to just be like, hey, like, what was your story like? Like, how do you do taxes? Who do you think could be beneficial to help me, like, teach me things along the journey? Are you willing to hire me, like, to be hired as a coach, kind of a thing? That's definitely been something that's been super beneficial. I know it's kind of scary for some people, but the more I did it, the more it really like gained confidence to be like, oh, these people, we're all just people.
Yeah. And I think
like,
that's one thing you really have to keep in mind is it doesn't matter how presented someone is, like online, or how like infallible they seem, or what, like we're all just fucking human beings. We all have off days. We all have emotions. We all have joy. We all have, you know, like we all want to be useful in some way, you know, like we all want to have some kind of impact and like legacy. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to people. I've reached out to a number, like I'm a fucking freelancer. I reach out to people all goddamn day, and I get like rejections on a good day. And I get silence a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But I think it's that act of like reaching out that can be a strong muscle to build.
Totally. And I feel like that ties perfectly into something else, is it's like, you're going to get rejected at times.
It's not a comment on you as a person. They're not rejecting your character. It just is a fact of life.
It's strengthening you, and it's really testing you to see like, are you going to like give up, or are you going to keep moving forward? Because so much, if you are going to choose the entrepreneurial path, we've been talking about this too, like I'm not an advocate of like you have to hustle and work super insane to be successful, but there are going to be times that are uncomfortable, and to just keep taking those little gradual baby steps. So like if you want to be an artist, like draw all the time, or paint all the time, or write all the time, and even if you're not getting paid, like just keep putting your energy and effort to the best of your ability towards these things, because ultimately it's going to get picked up. And that's what happened to me. It was like I was drawing in my little black book that I picked up when I was in Colorado, like losing my mind, and I was sketching in it every single day. Yeah. And I would bring it with me everywhere. And after a couple of years, I realized like, oh my God, this is basically a portfolio. And so I would take that in different spaces that I knew might be beneficial, or totally just random situations would come about where people would see me drawing, and then people would come up to be like, what are you doing? And then I would show them, and then I started getting illustration jobs. So you never really know how it's going to show up, but as long as you're like continuously putting energy and effort like towards the things that you're trying to cultivate, eventually, if it's something you want bad enough, like it will pay off. It will become something that you can turn into a career, which is something that I definitely want to put an emphasis on. Yeah. But yeah.
I feel like I could do a whole episode on how to know the difference between like a rejection and a pivot, or like how to know when to like keep doing the same thing over and over again, but that's like the definition of crazy, or like try something new. Like there's a difference between like when to be persistent and consistent and when to like pivot and try something new. But that could be like an entire conversation in and of itself. If you guys are interested in that, let me know, and I will figure out a way to organize all those thoughts.
Totally. My last thing is I feel like when you are stepping into the career or the life that you want, I really want to put an emphasis on that you're going to get tested.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God,
big time.
Get tested.
Big time. So what that looks like is like, let's say I am trying to make a certain amount of money per month. I can guarantee that I'm going to get a job offer that isn't offering that much money. Or a situation that's like almost the situation that I want career-wise, but like isn't the exact thing. Mm-hmm. For me personally, like I was sharing before, a lot of my wounds are in terms of but not anymore, but my tests are definitely in terms of romance and settling or like, just going for the wrong person. So I get tested where if something I'm calling in something career-wise, like a male will come into my life that's going to try to date me, and I have to be like, no, bitch. Piss off. Like, you're not my person. I am
focused right now.
I've gotten, not in terms of that you can't do both, but like I intuitively, like I know the people that are my people, whether that's romantically or friendship wise, and saying no. And so I feel like 2020 was literally the year of me being like, nope. But because of that, I feel like I've also been stepping more into my career. So I really wanted to put an emphasis on that because I feel like a lot of people, as they start growing and they might want to step back because these uncomfortable situations or tests come about. Like, if you failed, there's no pass or fail, but if you don't pass it, it's fine. You're just going to get retested in that area again, especially if it's a pattern or something subconscious that has been coming into your life for a very long time. Come up multiple times until you're able to move beyond that.
And even when you move beyond it, it'll come back. It'll test you again.
Totally.
Just for shits and giggles.
Totally. So to come back to your question, I have a website at ashleychurchart.com. You will find all of my lovely paints and that whole shebang up there. At Instagram, I am at The Trail Provides. And then I just started a new Instagram account because my main goal, I cannot die until this happens, is to, I've already written it, is to write and illustrate a poetry book and to get that into eating disorder recovery centers to have this thing that they can look at and read to inspire them to go on their own healing journey and create the big ol' art project that it was that their soul is wanting to bring out. So that can be found at Trail Provides Poetry. So I've got those 3 different emails or accounts that you can access me. And please, I'm sure like you, reach out if you've got any questions. I love doing that whole thing. And I am taking on clients for coaching. So please feel free to reach out anytime.
And I will link to all that in the show notes as well. So thank you very much, Ashley, for being here.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all for listening, watching, reading, whatever it is. If you got value out of this podcast, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up or a 5 stars. Whatever it is on the platform that you are consuming it on that helps it get seen by the algorithms, because that is how we get this show in front of more people who need this information. Mm-hmm. If you know someone specifically who is an artist or trying to be an artist or trying to be an artist on the road or just trying to be on the road.
Right.
And you think that this episode would benefit them, go ahead and share it with them directly. That would be excellent. If you want to help offset some of the costs that go into making the podcast, I have a Venmo and a PayPal set up as well, and they are linked in the show notes. Mm-hmm. And again, my 1-year podcast anniversary is coming up in just a few weeks. And the week before, so the last week of February, we are going to be doing a series of giveaways and contests and things like that. So tune in that week for all that fun stuff. And I don't really know what year 2 of Deliberate Living looks like, but this is a machine that is kind of going on its own, and I don't really want to stop it. I don't think I could if I tried, so There will be more Deliberate Living. But again, thank you all for tuning in this week, and tune in next week. There'll be another great show. Bye!
Thank you so much. Bye-bye!
We've reached the end of this episode of Deliberate Living. You can find the show notes and everything we referenced over on my website, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, on YouTube, or sign up for email updates every time something new is published. I'll see you next time on Deliberate Living, and until then, keep your life on the DL too.